Hello everyone. The topic for today is disorder in South Asia, challenges and opportunities for India. So first of all, let us know what is South Asia. South Asia क्या है? ये कौन सा region है? Actually, South Asia is a group comprising of 8 countries, which is bounded in the north by the Himalayas and in the south by the Indian Ocean. All the countries of the South Asian region are developing countries, and all countries except Afghanistan are low middle income countries, whereas Afghanistan is a low income country. Now, let us see what is the disorder in South Asia. अब हम ये जान लेते हैं कि साउथ एशिया में क्या प्रॉब्लम्स है, क्या डिसऑर्डर चल रहा है. Actually, there are certain political and economic problems in some South Asian countries like Afghanistan, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Nepal. So let us know what is the problem there in Afghanistan. So Afghanistan में क्या प्रॉब्लम चल रही है. So in Afghanistan, there is the political problem. There is political problem. We know that Taliban took the control of Afghanistan on 15th of August 2021, and since then the Taliban government there is not in comfortable position. So Taliban took the government or took the control of Afghanistan on 15th of August 2021, and since then the Taliban government there is not in comfortable position. So what is the problem there to the Taliban government? Actually, Taliban government, we can say, is facing a number of challenges. So what are the challenges there to the Taliban government at present? So first challenge I would like to mention here is that is the challenge of the legitimacy of the Taliban government, because many countries in the world are not recognizing the Taliban government in Afghanistan. This is the one problem. And the second problem is the security of the general public over there. And the third big challenge, that is the challenge of governance in the country. And the next challenge before the current Taliban government of Afghanistan is how to deal with the current humanitarian crisis in the country. And moreover, the next problem which is there being faced by the Taliban government is the internal opposition of the Taliban. So as far as internal opposition is concerned, let us know who are opposing the Taliban internally. So one thing is that is the ISIS, which is opposing the Taliban. Why? Because ISIS wants to become an alternative of the Taliban in Afghanistan, because ISIS wants to emerge as an alternative to the Taliban in Afghanistan. So this is the one we can say problem, or one group which is opposing the Taliban there in Afghanistan or in the country I would like to say. And the second group, that is known as the Salafists, they are also opposing the Taliban there in the country. And the next problem, I would like to say that you can say Taliban has water related issues. Taliban has water related issues, or Afghanistan has water related issues with its supporter or secondary supporter, we can say Pakistan and Iran. So this is another problem. And moreover, there is a border problem between Afghanistan and Pakistan as well. There is a border problem between Afghanistan and Pakistan as well. So these are the various problems which are there. And the next is there is the economic problem in Afghanistan. So what is the economic problem there in Afghanistan? As far as the economic problem is concerned, number one, Afghanistan's economy is in ruins. Economy is in ruins. And the second important thing is that there is very acute shortage of you can say food, shortage of food and medicines, and other essential commodities According to an estimate, more than 95% of Afghanistan's population is not able to get adequate food to eat. More than 95% of population is not able to get adequate food to eat. So this is the problem there in Afghanistan, I can say, right? So now let us discuss about the problem in Pakistan. So what is the problem there in Pakistan? Let us discuss that also. So as far as Pakistan is concerned, so one issue, I can say that there is some political issue. So what is the political issue there? You might have, you can say, seen in the newspapers in the recent days that Pakistani forces have conducted air raids in eastern Afghanistan. So what is the reason behind those air raids? The reason is that there is a group which is known as TTP. TTP means Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. So this group operates from Afghanistan, and wants to establish Taliban rule in Pakistan, as well. So that is why the Pakistani forces conducted air raids in eastern Afghanistan, and in those air raids, many Afghani Afghani women and children were killed. Children were killed, and that is why there were huge anti-Pakistan protests. There were huge anti-Pakistan protests in eastern Afghanistan. In eastern Afghanistan. So this is one problem. And the second problem I would like to mention here is that in Pakistan also, there is a very, you can say, grave economic crisis, right? So what is the economic crisis there in Pakistan? The first important thing is that the economy of Pakistan is debt ridden. Okay, so Pakistan's economy is debt ridden. The debt to GDP ratio of Pakistan is very high, you can say. And the second important point, which is here, is that the forex reserves of the country are inadequate. And the third important point here is that we can say rupee, the official currency of Pakistan, is depreciating continuously, and therefore the prices of commodities is very high there. We can say that there is a high rate of inflation, and the chances of Pakistan becoming a debt default country are very high. Chances of Pakistan becoming a debt default country, debt defaulters are very high. Okay. So now the next important point here is that if this economic crisis of Pakistan is not addressed adequately and timely, then it may lead to political uncertainty. And civil unrest as well. So this may be the consequence of this crisis if this crisis is not addressed timely and adequately, we can say. So next, we will discuss about the problem in Sri Lanka now. Sri Lanka में क्या problem चल रही है? As far as Sri Lanka is concerned, I think everybody must be knowing, आप सबको मालूम होगा कि श्रीलंका में very grave economic crisis, very deep economic crisis is there. So what is there? So we can say economy is very unstable. Forex reserves are critically low. And therefore the government had to declare a debt default. Also, and there is acute shortage of you can say food, fuel, medicines, and other essential commodities. and other essential commodities. And other essential commodities. And apart from that, there is power crisis as well. Power crisis as well, because there is very short supply of electricity and very short supply of electricity. Very short supply of electricity is there in the country. And now the problem is that this economic crisis has turned into a political problem as well. Turned into a political problem as well. So what is the political problem there now? There are huge anti-government protests. Anti-government protests. The general public and opposition are demanding resignation from the president and the PM of Sri Lanka, Prime Minister of Sri Lanka. And if this problem is not resolved, you can say timely. If the problem is not resolved timely, it may lead to instability of the country. It may lead to instability of the country, because in such circumstances, the chances of civil unrest or civil war becomes very high. The chances of civil unrest or civil war becomes very high. Okay, so this is the problem about the Sri Lanka, we can say. Okay, so the next problem that is related with the Nepal. So Nepal में क्या issue चल रहा है? The next is related with Nepal. So देखते हैं कि what is the problem there in Nepal, we can say, right? So as far as Nepal is concerned, you can say in Nepal also there is a economic problem. Okay, so what is the economic problem and how we can say that the economic problem is there in Nepal? So first of all, I would like to say that the major economic indicators are in worrisome condition. Economic indicators are in worrisome condition there. So what are those major economic indicators? वो कौन से economic indicators हैं? Number one, there is very high rate of inflation, right? And number two, we can say foreign currency reserves. Foreign currency reserves are falling. And the third indicator which is there, that is, I can say that there is a trade deficit which is, you can say, higher than usual. Okay, it may become unmanageable also in the days to come, and balance of payment, you can say, condition is also not good, right? So all these economic indicators are not good there as far as the Nepalese economy is concerned, right? So the next thing is that, so in the wake of this, the government of Nepal Okay. The government of Nepal has imposed ban on imports of has imposed ban on imports of what we can say. Okay, so number one, it has imposed ban on imports of cars and ban on imports of cosmetics, and other luxury goods also, and other luxury goods also, luxury goods also, and even the government has has declared a cut on imports of petroleum products by more than half. So this is the condition at present over there in Nepal, and the fuel prices are very high. Okay? Fuel prices are very high, we can say, are very high there in the country, very high. Okay, so these are the problems or disorders in the various South Asian countries, which we can say. Okay, so the next which we will discuss now, that is the challenges for India. So अब ऐसी सिचुएशन जब साउथ एशिया में प्रिवेल कर रही है, तो ऐसे में इंडिया के सामने कौन कौन से चैलेंजेस हैं, चुनौतियां हैं. द फर्स्ट थिंग इज दैट लॉस ऑफ अपॉर्चुनिटी इन टर्म्स ऑफ ट्रेड. लॉस ऑफ अपॉर्चुनिटी इन टर्म्स ऑफ ट्रेड ये कैसे हो सकता है? बिकॉज इंडिया इज द बिगेस्ट कंट्री इन द रीजन. Okay, and India has a very high potential, okay, to export the goods and services to these countries. So if the economies of those countries is not good, so then obviously in such a situation, the trade of the country with these countries will affect. And next is a spread of terrorism. So as far as the spread of terrorism is concerned, right, we know that Pakistan is a breeding ground of terrorism. Okay, it is internationally recognized nowadays. Okay, and almost the entire world is affected by the Pakistan sponsored terrorist, whether it is USA or it may be the other countries like of the region. So that is there. Okay, so now in such a situation, as we have discussed that in Pakistan there is the economic problem, right? And moreover, the Taliban, which is a group known as TTP, which is operating from the eastern Afghanistan, they want to establish the Taliban government in Pakistan. So if such a type of economic problem or any political problem emerges from this, so then you can say that may strengthen terrorism, that may strengthen terrorists in Pakistan. And similarly, the next thing is that if the Taliban government loses control in Afghanistan, if Taliban government loses control of Afghanistan to other groups, then the chances of you can say terrorism, the chances of increase in terrorism becomes very high, in such a situation. So this is the problem. So next is the influx of refugees. So as far as the influx of refugees is concerned, so I would like to say here that India has refugees from Afghanistan, Pakistan, Myanmar, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, right? So you can say there is a considerable population of refugees living in India at present. And if such type of problems are not, you can say, settled down in the countries in India's neighbor, so obviously the chances of asylum seekers crossing into India would increase. And in the past, we have seen that in the wake of the economic crisis in Sri Lanka, many families from that country are have crossed over into India, and more families are coming into India for asylum. And similarly, the risk of others developing influence in the region. So here I would like to say that because when someone's house is not in order, then others try to develop their influence in that. Right? So in such a case, if any such country whose interests clash with India, right, enters in these countries which are under trouble, then that will be troublesome for India also. I mean to say here कि मान लीजिए हम एक कंट्री की एग्जांपल ले लेते हैं, मान लीजिए हम किसी कंट्री की एग्जांपल लेते हैं, लेट्स सपोज नेपाल में प्रॉब्लम है या अफगानिस्तान के अंदर प्रॉब्लम है. अगर ये प्रॉब्लम सबसाइड नहीं होती, तो अगर वहां आकर के कोई ऐसा कंट्री बैठ जाता है जिसके इंटरेस्ट इंडिया के इंटरेस्ट से अगेंस्ट हैं, let's suppose China enters there, so that will be a problematic situation for India. So these are the challenges for India as of now, right? So according to my understanding, right? So now what is next there? Okay, so as far as the next is concerned, now we will discuss about the opportunities for India. So इंडिया के लिए कौन कौन सी अपॉर्चुनिटीज हैं ऐसी सिचुएशन में. सो फर्स्ट opportunity which has been mentioned here is you can say to emerge as a regional leader and create a new order in South Asia, right? So this is very important point. So time is very, you can say, appropriate now for India to emerge as a regional leader and create a new order in this region in South Asia. I mean to say, there are many factors which support India as far as this point is concerned, right? So let me discuss the factors supporting India to emerge as a regional leader. So what are the factors there that support India in this respect, right? So one factor I would like to mention here, that is, you can say India is economically strong, economically better, we can say, and politically stable, Okay, so this is there. Okay, so in explanation of this, I would like to tell you, इसकी explanation में मैं आपके साथ share करना चाहता हूँ. One, India is the biggest country. India is the biggest country in South Asia. So this is the one important point. And the second thing is that India is a successful democracy. India is a successful democracy, democracy. So this is the another point. Okay, and the next point here is that India is a world's third largest economy. India is world's third largest economy in terms of purchasing power parity. PPP means purchasing power parity. Okay, so and the next is that according to the recent survey that is published by the International Monetary Fund. According to the recent assessment of the International Monetary Fund, we can say that according to the recent assessment of the International Monetary Fund, India in current year is the world's fastest growing economy. Is the world's fastest growing economy, we can say. Okay, so these are the various factors, right, which prove that India is economically better and politically stable, we can say. And the second factor which favors India in this respect, that is, we can say, India's strategic location. India's strategic location. The strategic location of India also provides strength to the country, because India is sitting just above the Indian Ocean, and the Indian Ocean provides a very important trade route between the east and the west. So that is why we can say that India is benefited from that also. And the third point is that India's military. This is the third point we can say. So as far as India's military is concerned, we can say that India has one of the biggest military powers in the world, right? So one of the biggest military powers, in the world. So this is the one point. And the second point is that according to the recent statistics, India is the third largest military spender in the world. So this is another important point. And the next important point I would like to mention here is that we can say that India is a responsible nuclear power. India is a responsible nuclear power. Okay, so we become a nuclear power not to, you can say, threaten anybody, but for the purpose of our own safety and security, and to create a balance in the region. So that is the purpose. And the next important thing is that India is the only country in South Asian region to counter China. So India is the only country in the South Asian region that has the ability to counter China. So how we can say, right? So because one thing is that because number one, India is economically, politically, and militarily sound, right? India is economically, politically, and militarily sound. So this is the one point which is very important, I can say, politically and militarily sound. So this is the one point. Okay. And the second point is that Quad, India's membership to Quad has definitely added to India's strength. India's membership to Quad has definitely added to India's strength. So what is Quad? Quad is a security dialogue among four countries, that is US, Japan, India, and Australia. The focus of Quad is on Indo-Pacific security. right? And the next point, which is very important point, that is, we can say India's foreign policy. That is India's foreign policy. So this is the next point. So as far as India's foreign policy is concerned, so first thing I would like to discuss here that India is a peace-loving country. It you can say it has no intentions of exploiting its weaker neighbors. Instead, India has helped its weaker neighbors at a number of times. The recent example is during the COVID, and even before that, in 2017, India launched a SARC satellite also, right, for the benefit of the SARC countries. So there are many examples related with this. And the second thing is that India has a neutral and independent foreign policy. India has demonstrated this well during this Ukraine-Russia war, because many resolutions were put up in the UN to condemn Russia against Russia, and India preferred to abstain, you can say, from voting on those resolutions. So India has conveyed to the world by this that it is not allied to any one power bloc, whether it is Russia or it is US or it is China. It is not, you can say, allied to any one power bloc, right? So India takes its international decisions, right, in the larger interest of the humanity, number one, and number two, according to its own national interests also. So these are the very important points as far as India's foreign policy is concerned. And moreover, you can say neighborhood first is a very important characteristic of India's foreign policy, right? So all these points I can say, right, justify that the time is appropriate now for India to emerge as a regional leader and to set a new order in South Asia. So this is the first point which we have discussed. And the second important point here, that is to regain ground lost to China, right? To regain ground lost to China. So what is related with this? Actually, we can say, we know that China is making inroads into the South Asian countries since the past many years, right? So it has wooed Sri Lanka, it has wooed Pakistan, and it, you can say, tried to woo Bangladesh as well, Maldives as well. So basically, that is the China's interest actually, right? But in the recent times, the China's debt trap policy has been exposed, right? In the recent times, China's debt trap policy has been exposed. China's debt trap diplomacy or policy has been exposed. Okay. So here a very important point to mention is that okay, the countries of South Asia that are most exposed to, China's debt are in the biggest trouble now, right? So we can take the example of Sri Lanka and Pakistan. Okay, we can take the example of Sri Lanka and Pakistan. Okay, so that means okay, so China's you can say debt trap diplomacy is to serve China's interest primarily, right? in the name of the developmental support to these countries, right? So Pakistan is there. So this is an important point here, I can say, right? And why? Because we can say that the debt provided to China carries, debt provided by China to such countries, carry carries, you can say, comparatively higher rates of interest, a higher rate of interest. So these are the points which are right. We can say that on the basis of which we can say that the time is appropriate for India now to regain ground lost to China in the South Asian region. And the next important point is that to increase trade and export of services, right? Because India is the biggest and capable country in the South Asian region. Okay, so in case, right, India helps these countries, which it is doing very consciously and very smartly as well, right? So then it may be benefited from the trade and export of services to these countries. So next is to take political support of South Asian neighbors at various international platforms at the UN, right? So in case India helps these countries at this time of trouble, which it is doing, India is providing all possible economic, physical, and physical in the sense that supply of the goods and services, right? Economic, material. Let me say material instead of physical, right? Economic, material, and moral support to these countries, even, right? And we know that India is advocating. India is advocating the reforms in the UN, and if there is a move to expand the UN Security Council, then obviously India will be a candidate for the permanent membership, right? Then India will be a candidate for permanent membership. Okay, will be a candidate for permanent membership, and in that case, India will need support of the maximum countries, and such South Asian countries may help India at that time. Countries may help India at that time. Okay, next is to silence Taliban on Kashmir issue. Actually, let me tell you that there are two groups or two different, we can say, ideological groups among the Taliban in Afghanistan, right? So one group, right, according to one group, right, you can say Kashmir is not the jurisdiction of Taliban. The jurisdiction of Taliban, and you can say it is the internal matter of India. It is the internal matter of India. So one group does not want to interfere on the Kashmir issue, right? So, but there are news also, but there are such type of news also that we can say that right, that some terrorists are being trained in Afghanistan, okay, for you can say for attacks in Kashmir. So it means one group is that wants to remain neutral on Kashmir issue, right? So let me put it in simple terms that one group wants to remain neutral on Kashmir issue, stay neutral on Kashmir issue, and the other group is taking or takes is having anti-India stance on Kashmir. So these are the news there, right? So, but the next thing I would like to mention here that what is the point which is important here, that at present Taliban government is ineffective in Afghanistan. Why? Because on one hand, it has issues with Pakistan, right? Like I have already discussed that Pakistan has conducted air raids in eastern Afghanistan because a group which is known as Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan is operating from Afghanistan, and they want to establish Taliban rule in Pakistan as well. That is why Pakistan is not happy with that support of Afghanistan to the Tehreek-e-Taliban. Okay, Pakistan. So this is the point, right? And the second thing is Iran, right? So there are reports of you can say skirmishes between the skirmishes between the Iranian and Afghanistani forces and very recently Afghanistani forces, right? And very recently we can say Iran has closed its border with Afghanistan. Iran has closed its border with Afghanistan. With Afghanistan. So this is the problem, right? So now the thing is that, right? So in this case, if India supports the Taliban in Afghanistan to deal with the, if India supports Taliban now to deal with the humanitarian crisis there, which India is doing also, right? So that may help India in silencing Taliban on Kashmir also, right? So this is an important point here, okay? In Kashmir also, very important point. Okay? So this is about the opportunities for India, I can say, right? This is about the opportunities for India. So now let us move further, right? Suggestions for India. So what India can do, what India should do at this time, right? So suggestions for India, I would like to say, okay? So as far as suggestions are concerned, right? So one important suggestion here is that India needs to interact more with its neighbors. This is what India is doing, right? So this is time for India to play smart diplomacy and provide moral support to the countries in trouble, to interact more with its neighbors, to you can say increase its communication with its neighbors, and to bridge the gap, if any, with its neighbors, right? So even we can say that India is, you can say, well experienced in this matter, as we can take the example of Bangladesh, right? So we have, or India has resolved all border issues with Bangladesh in a very peaceful manner, right? So India is ready to, you can say, resolve the border issue with Pakistan also, right? Through the, you can say, negotiation, through the process of dialogue. India is open always, right? So that is there. And even you can say, uh, in India has in this time of trouble provided, that is the currency swaps, credit lines, and loans to Sri Lanka, and it has provided other support also. Even the finance minister of India in the recent meeting at the IMF has, you can say, uh, uh, advocated the cause of Sri Lanka, right, there in the IMF. So this is another point, right? And even India has committed to supply 50,000 metric tons of wheat to Afghanistan to deal with the humanitarian crisis there in the country. So India is playing a smart diplomacy, and India is providing the material help, economic help, as well as the moral support to the countries in trouble. So the next is India need to come forward to help its neighbors to the extent possible in terms of finances, which India is doing, but it should try to explore more if it can do, right? Technology, including digital technology, space technology, etc., and political support to deal with the internal issues of its neighbors, because there are many internal issues in the South Asian countries. So India, you can say, can provide a political support to such countries to deal with their internal issues. Okay? And the next, you can say, which is important, that next suggestion for India, right, that India should uh, keep its house in order first. How? By introducing economic, social, and political reforms, avoiding the propaganda that minorities, particularly the Muslims in India, are unsafe. So this is very important point, because we are seeing in the news, in the electronic media today, right, that minorities are feeling unsafe in India, minorities are not safe in India. Such type of propaganda is there, right? So India needs to counter it smartly, right? Because it erodes away the soft power of India on the international platform. So that is why this is important for India. Next is speeding up its economic development, and right, so that is there, economic development, because the more economic development, right, can uh, you can say bring all the excluded population of India into the fold of development. Next is emerging out of the problems of poverty and unemployment. We know in India there is a large scale unemployment and poverty as well. So India should try its best to emerge out of these problems, because if India's house is in order, only then India can become a source of inspiration for others, and it can provide a workable model, practical model to its South Asian neighbors, and its South Asian neighbors would be attracted towards India in in that case. So this is all about the today's topic, which is that is disorder in South Asia, challenges and opportunities for India. I hope you must have enjoyed this lecture. In case you have any doubt or queries, you can write in the comment box. I will try to address your queries. So bye for now. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon. Okay, bye. And uh, may God bless you. Stay healthy, stay happy. Take care of yourself. Thank you.